This is the Nightwolf howling at you, and today we're going to take a look at the G.I. Joe Classified series, Alpine, Pine. And I hate myself for not noticing that joke earlier. Oh, his codename is Alpine, his name is Alpine. God, why? Anyway, on the side of the box, we see some artwork with him looking kind of smug, actually, as he's getting ready to throw his grappling hook. On the other side, we see the same usual BS. One of these days, I keep on hoping that the Joe team will actually tell us what all those symbols mean officially. And on the back of the box, we got a nice scene showing him actually climbing up a mountain. It actually looks like he's getting ready to do more of a horizontal, sideways kind of climb bit there too, or whatever you want to call it, while fighting trouble bubbles. Let's go ahead and open this sucker up. So Alpine here is part of the dynamic duo, or the odd couple duel of Alpine and Bazooka. If you watch the original G.I. Joe cartoon from the 80s, you will know that the interactions between the two of them are some of the best comedy bits in the show. He is one of the characters I really liked back in the days of watching the cartoon. Him and Bazooka, man, honestly, they were a riot when they first showed up. So I definitely am glad we finally got him in. I just kind of wish he had come with Bazooka, you know, at the same time.
Does someone here want to take me for a stroll on a moonlit beach?
Sure. Hey, please excuse my friend here. I'll take you.
Here's some trash for your can, Dino Brain. Gotcha.
Great, that was the only door, Shell Brain. I'll make another.
But let's go ahead and take a look at the equipment that he comes with right now. He has the same gun and launcher that came with, I believe, the Alley Vipers originally. Which, of course, you could have a string between the two of those, and he can launch this into the air. He comes with a rifle. This part definitely does not stay in there very well, unfortunately. He comes with a grappling hook. He comes with a grappling hook with some rope attached to it, and man, do they do a good job winding that rope on there. First off, I'm not even sure where you would start to unwind it. And secondly, I'm not sure I'd even want to unwind it, to be honest. But I think this actually may have been the same little hook thing that came with Shipwreck, minus the rope. Pair of goggles. And his cap. Which I'm not 100% sure, but this does look similar to the cap that came with Crazy Legs. And, whoops. His climbing axes. These are pretty badass looking. And if you've ever played the Tomb Raider games, pretty badass weapons. And surprisingly, looking at these, it's not just the same one twice. They are actually two different molds. That may be the biggest surprise of all here. Let me see. Are they the same size? Aside from that, they're pretty much the same size. But, you know, one has that extra wrapping on it, which honestly surprises me because I would not have expected them to go through the effort of making two different ones. So, let's see. The goggles fit on his head just fine. I think in the original toy, though, his goggles were actually molded to his hat, but I can't remember. Unfortunately, he's one of the figures that I no longer have in my collection. I don't. The goggles themselves, however, are not going to fit over the cap. The cap itself does fit just fine on its head, though. Speaking of which, we got a pretty nice looking head sculpt there for him. I've been noticing though a lot of the Joes have the extra. I realize this is a military haircut still, but most of them have like more shaved off the sides and the back than they do the top still. Um, it seems like nobody just has a plain buzz cut anymore on the team. The little rope does come off of his shoulder. Not that you can do anything with it once it comes off, but that does allow us to actually take his shirt, open it up, and see that it says Idaho under it. Unfortunately, his arms and his butterfly joints are done in black, so I guess he is wearing a long sleeve shirt underneath a muscle shirt. Put that back in place. Put his hat back in place. Let's go ahead and... Ooh, look at that. So, by the way, he does have a crotch harness set up here. And he does have the little pouch where you would keep your... do they actually use chalk for the climbing, or is it a different powder? Part of me is thinking that they actually uses a powdered chalk, but it might be something different. But that is the pouch where you would put that, put your hand back there, cover it again for your climbing, in order to keep the sweat off your hands. He also has a loop on there so that you can actually attach the rope to it. And he's got a ton of carabiners on his belt as well. So he is well prepared for climbing. Now, articulation-wise, the head is on the ball joint. He does not have the hinge on there. You can spin the head around, look down. Can't really look up very well with him. And we can look over and kind of down as well. The jacket is, again, a separate piece, although it is more of a vest in this case. Arms can hinge up and down. We can spin it all around at the bicep cut. The butterfly joint actually has a pretty decent range of motion, though the vest does kind of interfere with it, but at least it mostly shifts with it too, so it's not a huge deal breaker. Double joint elbow. Spin at the wrist. And it appears that he does have the up and down articulation. However, it doesn't really function well with his forearm. We have an ab crunch. And it's got a nice ratchet inside. We have the ball joint at the waist that allows him to wiggle it all about, mimicking the old ring figures quite nicely. Drop down hips. His crotch harness does, however, really go up into his crotch. He can kick out pretty far. Like, this is actually pretty impressive considering that, he's got the attachments there, where some of the previous figures where we've had like the thigh attachments that went to a belt did in fact interfere with the movement. He can kick forward. And he can kick back. He does have a slight butt crack. We have the thigh cut. Double jointed knee. Boot cut. Hinge. You can see the hinge here, but man, it is hard to move. But there's the hinge at the ankle. And our spin is going at the boot cut. But we can also spin the foot around. Though this design does seem to cause some issues with doing the full 360 spin at the ankle. The heel, or the, I guess the back of the shoe does hit his the front of the boot, whatever you want to call it, quite harshly. I don't know. I kind of wish they had given us a second set of goggles for him that we could have put on his hat. Though that look isn't too bad. The thing is, looking at this figure, okay, aside from being able to hook these things, it looks like, into these little loops here, which I, honest to God, am kind of afraid, just looking at this, that would break at some point. You can basically put his axes back there, but there does not appear to be anywhere that you can hook on the hook, the grappling hook, nor any of his other equipment. He's got no backpack to go with him. And actually, to be perfectly honest, even putting the axes in those loops is really kind of awkward. Yeah, I don't think I would do that too often because I think that that's going to break if you do. Oh, hold on here. Let's see. We do have an extra little loop over here, so maybe that's for the grappling hook. Oh, it's not actually a loop. It's a hook. So let's see. Truth of the matter is, it seems like the actual string inside the hook is interfering with the ability to actually hook it onto there. So, like, yeah, we can get it like that. I don't think that that's going to be a very practical way to display him. It is a bit disappointing. So, display-wise, let me see. I think we will probably have him set up with his goggles and his hat. Ow. I believe these axes are specifically for ice climbing, or I believe these axes are actually for climbing in ice and snowy situations, but I am not a climber, so I don't know for sure. And if anybody here is a mountain climber, please let me know. That being said, let's take a look at his file card. We have the Mountain Trooper, codename Alpine, file name Pine, Albert N, SN number. Primary military specialty, Mountain Trooper. Is that actually a military specialty, by the way? Secondary military specialty, finance clerk. So he can do your taxes while he's climbing a mountain face. Birthplace, Minidoka, Idaho. Grade E4. From the middle of the flat, dusty Snake River plain where Alpine was born, he could see the mountains on the horizon in almost every direction, like a physical barrier between him and the world he wanted. He took up mountain climbing during college and continued as a recreational climber during his brief tenure as an accountant for a large publishing firm. The G.I. Joe team gave Alpine the most hazardous of all conditions, with Cobra shooting at him. Graduated Ranger School, Fort Benning. Qualified expert M16, M14, M60, M1911A1. Every time Alpine scales a sheer cliff face, piton by piton, overcoming granite and gravity with muscle and persistence, he is symbolically climbing out of the quagmire of his past. That's why we send him up first on vertical assaults. He doesn't take being knocked down too easily. So there you go, that's our buddy Alpine. And I am looking forward to displaying him alongside Bazooka. Yeah, I am kind of disappointed in the fact that, at least on my copy, the magazine does not stay in there very well. Like, a lot of them pretty much lock into place really nicely. This one does not. The grappling hook looks cool. I don't want to unwind that. For one, I just don't want to deal with all the string. And two, it really is so nicely done. It's crazy. And finally, the grapple gun actually is something that makes a lot of sense. But I think for display purposes with this guy, he's going to be with his hand axes because that looks kind of badass. I hope you enjoyed this look at our Mountain Trooper Alpine and Bazooka's bosom buddy. Please feel free to leave any comments below on your thoughts here. How do you feel about the design? And again, how accurate to anybody who actually does mountain climbing is the equipment here? And exactly, I mean, like I've played the Tomb Raider games, so I've seen her like use these to climb up sheer faces. I just kind of wonder exactly how this is supposed to work properly. And I keep thinking that they're specifically for when you're dealing with ice. So if you do have any answers to that, please comment below. And if you enjoyed this content, I'll leave a like. I would appreciate it. Platoon that like button. And I mean platoon, not spatoon. That's two different things. And the second one's kind of gross. Thank you for watching. Peace and love.